I like the osteospermum with the pink. All right, so you might not, but I do. Using paint in the garden is a great way to add colour and to show off your plants. From fencing to furniture, I'm going to show you how a few splashes of colour can really transform your space. The first place to start to use paint in the garden is with walls and fences. Whatever kind of timber fence you have, paint or preservative is essential to promote its longevity. Otherwise, it rots incredibly quickly. The thing is, when fences come, if they're stained and you don't mind the sort of rustic look like this in your veg patch or wherever, that's fine. But all too often, large interwoven fencing panels are bright orange. It's like living in a crate of Jaffas. Nobody wants that. And today, with an enormous range of fence colours on offer, you don't have to stick to what used to be called barleywood blue. If you have a medium-sized garden, painting your fences a light colour gives the impression that your garden's bigger. The eye's drawn from the boundaries to the plants and features that contrast with it. The safest option is medium or light grey. If you have a lot of foliage in your garden, these plants will really pop against the grey backdrop. And if you want your fence to disappear behind shrubs and trees, the darker greys, or even black, will turn it into shadow. Painting walls really does come down to the style of garden you have or what your wall's made of. Old-fashioned mellow brick walls make great backdrops for plants, so given the choice, I wouldn't paint those. But if you have a very new and rather leery brick wall, it can look quite oppressive. If you are going to paint the wall, I recommend lighter, neutral colours. And if you fasten trellis to it, you can train plants up it. And plants are often much prettier than a bare brick wall. If it's a smaller wall, or a wall in a courtyard, you could treat it like a feature wall in a house and be a little bit more daring. But be careful. And remember, if you get it wrong, you can always add another coat of a more subtle colour. One instance where you can be bolder with colour is with garden features or furniture. In fact, painting garden features not only gives them a new lease of life, but it also preserves them and makes them last longer. And garden buildings that are a focal point at the end of a view or a vista, well, they often come in rather boring shades of plain wood. Painting them turns them into something completely different, and you can change your mind about what colour they are every couple of years if you want. If you paint them a strong colour, they instantly become a focal point and your eye's drawn to them. You can achieve the same effect by painting furniture like benches or tables and chairs. Again, many of these items are made from pressure-treated softwood, so they benefit from being treated anyway. If you place a garden bench against a bed or border, the planting acts like a solid green backdrop. Paint the bench a strong colour and it instantly turns into a striking feature. Paint can also help you with features that should be less obvious in the garden. Sheds or log stores can be painted to blend into the background. Match them to the fence colour and they literally disappear. When it comes to paint, where you do need to be more restrained is with features that actually interact with plants. If you're growing climbers up a pergola or colourful perennials in a planter, choose a colour that complements rather than clashes with the plants. Whatever feature you're painting, make sure you use a good quality exterior garden paint. But paint can also be your friend, even if your garden isn't big enough for fences and summer houses. If all you've got is a few pots, you can still have fun with colour if you've got these lovely old hand-thrown terracotta pots, which they stopped making back in 1937 because they then all became moulded. Don't do anything with those, they're so beautiful and they age wonderfully. But the more modern moulded pots like this, well, they can be a bit dull and they get white efflorescence on them and a bit of mould, and you could argue that makes them look better, but you can brighten them up and do something a bit more dramatic. If you're quite restrained in your colour palette, don't worry. A grey like this is a good solid colour and it works wonderfully well with green foliage plants or variegated plants like this hosta. Play around. A lot of this is subjective. You may think it's wonderful and I'll say, oh, I wouldn't put that with that. It's your garden. Do what you want with what you want. I rather like this hosta, Patriot, with this grey. Very classy. Very good for a town garden. Very good for a town garden doorstep, don't you think? Rather nice, that. If your colour is just a little bit more out there, like this heritage colour, what are you going to do in that? I'm going to do something that my daughter would call punchy. Something like a calla lily. Whoa, I told you, punchy. Play around, see what you think will look good and put it together and think, oh no, not as good as I thought. But a calla lily for me with that heritage blue-grey is cracking. And then, even bolder than that, what about baby blue? Now, what would you put in there? How about a fuchsia? Come on, what's not to like? Outside the nursery, I mean, this is pure Mary Poppins, isn't it really? But that makes me smile. The pale blue and the pale pink with this darker rose-coloured centre to the fuchsia. I think that's rather fun. Pink and blue are an interesting combination. I think it probably is a bit of a Marmite combination in that you either love it or loathe it. They're the opposite ends of the colour spectrum, the blue and the pink, and I think they work really well together. The fuchsia's called Paula Jane. Highly suitable for a pale blue pot, don't you think? Chalky blue. And then, if you thought that was daring, right, okay, what you're going to do with a pink pot? Ooh, that's a bit scary, isn't it? Well, I think I'd put here something like an osteospermum. There you are. You see, that for me is quite complementary. They don't always have to contrast. Sometimes there can be a complementary shade. And I like the osteospermum with the pink. All right, so you might not, but I do. Here's a real challenge for you. Okay. A primrose yellow pot. What's going to go in there? Well, you can play safe. You could have a yellow plant in the yellow pot. They don't always have to contrast the colours. They can be the same and complement one another. Or, if you do want to contrast, what about a blue salvia? The options and the choices are endless. What do you think? Comment below. But you know, whatever pots you've got in your garden, if they need a bit of a zhuzh up, do it. Don't be frightened. The main thing is that you should have a bit of fun and the finished result should make you smile. So hopefully that's given you a few ideas as to how paint really can enhance your garden if you use it thoughtfully in the right places. If you've enjoyed this video, why not subscribe? I post new gardening videos every week to help make your garden beautiful, productive, and a pleasure to be in.